Well, this is interesting.
This guy's been mayor of New York City for 1 month, okay? What he promised was a free bus for everybody, grocery stores run by the government for, poor people to get food, which is a good thing, I think. And that rent was gonna go down. Those are like the big three things he promised everybody. So today he's got his first meeting with the city about the budget. And what he says is, I'm raising property taxes on everybody by 10%, okay? Rent's not gonna go down, actually. He's draining $1 billion from the rainy day fund, which I don't even know what that is, but it doesn't sound good. And none of the free stuff that he promised is actually happening.
Gosh, that sounds horrible. If only there was some way you guys could have predicted this. Like, if only there's somebody you could have talked to that maybe lived under a similar regime where communist politicians promised utopia but delivered nothing but misery, where the whole promise of free stuff was just an angle to concentrate political power in order to dominate over the very people that they were supposed to be helping. If only there was someone or some group of people, maybe from Eastern Europe or Russia or Cuba or Venezuela or North Korea or China that could have informed you guys of this. You could have avoided this whole mess.
We have to talk about how ridiculous what Zohran Mamdani did in New York City is. Think about it for a second. He taxed the citizens of New York. He then threatened to use a New York City law to fine people who didn't shovel. And then he had people come sign up to shovel the areas of the city that he's supposed to take care of. And then he paid those people with their own tax dollars and then taxed the pay he gave them. Do you understand how fucking insane that is? He took their money, threatened to take more of their money if they didn't shovel, then paid them with their own money and then taxed them on their money that they had already given him, that he was giving back and taxing again. And the people of New York City thought this was a good thing. They thought they were making out. They were like, oh my God, they're paying us to shovel the snow. Yes, with your own fucking money that they are taxing again. He basically created a scheme where the people of New York had to do labor to have their money taxed twice.
This is such a monstrosity when it comes to think about it, okay? Because you can see what is happening now in New York City. It could happen to any city, okay? You guys should not go to vote for someone because you just see him tell you all the flamboyant things and stuff like that. Look into it critically. If this guy is into power for long, what is he going to bring for us? Because you could see all the promises about talking about free buses, talking about free this and that, reduce the housing, rent and everything, but now you can see him increasing everything now in New York because a whole system has been damaged just from this, okay? Like, if you're loving this as normal, you should subscribe to the channel. Like, listen to this.
As your next mayor, I will freeze your rent. In order to get to this point of closing the gap on both this fiscal year and the next fiscal year, we are forced to raid the rainy day fund, the retiree health benefits trust reserve, and to increase property taxes across these other years.
And I told you so never felt so good. When are blue people going to stop believing these liberal communist socialists that their whole campaign is on free stuff? And by free stuff, they mean you're going to pay for it. It always starts off with this whole narrative on we're going to tax the billionaires and we're going to tax the 1%. And as I've always said, every tax that starts as a millionaire or billionaire tax always trickles its way down to normal people.
When Zohran Mamdani says he's gonna freeze the rent for stabilized properties in New York City, it sounds great for the tenant, but what about the owner though? Use your pink meat and think if the owners of those stabilized properties are receiving less cash flow from those tenants, when those tenants call up and say, hey, my toilet's broken, how he gonna come up with the funds to fix it? Question mark? Newsflash, he or she is not. Well, that's us. Sure, your rent won't go up a few $100s, but now you're spending a few $100s on duct tape for the holes in the wall. It's the same principle when it comes to defunding the police in New York. Are you gonna call Ghostbusters when someone breaks in your property?
That New York City is ultimately going to have a Rome-esque decline because every time I come over here and I talk about how terrible of a city New York is, everybody's always like, well, if you're poor, then it's just not going to be worth it. And if you're not rich, it's not worth it. And that's just how it goes. And, like, first of all, do you not think that that's a crazy thing to have, like, normalized? Like, do you hear yourself? But also, like, that shows how deep in the trenches we are. But also, if working class people can't afford to live in this city, then they also can't afford to work here. So when the working class people leave, when your construction workers, your food service workers, your city job employees, civil servants, your, the people that drive the buses and the trains and parks and recreation, and like the people who work those very important pivotal jobs that keep the city running, when they are gone, who will billionaires and gentrifiers who work in like the cultural economy, who are you going to sell your products to?
New York City has been a mess all this while, okay? Because looking at this quote from Twitter, the person said, hey, I've been in New York City all through my life, and I'm thinking, if Mamdani is coming now to power, claiming he is going to charge the millionaires and the billionaires, reducing taxes for people and reducing the rent, is going to cause chaos and disaster in the city. It's never possible because Mamdani can do all of these things because they have a legal process to go through. But fooling people to vote for him because he's doing this is not the legal way to go. And anybody who voted for Mamdani is now crying foul because they did this, and some of the Republicans advised them to stop what they are doing. But Mamdani still won the election. So what are you waiting for? Mamdani, you guys voted for him and you guys are going to suffer the consequence of what you did. So you can see a whole lot of this. When I went through this, I was like shocked seeing a liberal talking like this. Okay, it's kind of different. Like, watch this.
I got a letter recently that my property taxes are going to go up $600 a year from now on. I got a letter that my homeowner's insurance is going up $60 a month. My propane company sent me a letter that my propane is going to double this year. They just came and filled up my tank. It was $1,000. That's crazy. Also, as a entrepreneur and business owner, I get my health insurance through the marketplace. So you have the Affordable Care Act. I pay $45 a month. They just informed me that if this bill passes and I lose my tax credit, I'm going to go from $45 a month to $660 a month for health insurance. I need to buy a new car and I can't because the cars have gotten more expensive and the interest rates have gotten so much more expensive. I can't find a reliable car that has the same monthly payment of $450 a month that I've been paying now for a new car.
The Democrats always have a way of complaining because when I look at this, there are a whole lot of positions for us to see this from. But now, looking at it from the Democrats, you can't unanimously vote a mayor, and now you're kind of saying the mayor is corrupt, the mayor is increasing taxes, and most Republicans warned you guys about this, but now you choose to follow this path and now you're complaining. Why should you be complaining? Because there's no part of complaining here. Now the taxes are increasing. All the cities now are complaining, and now people are just destroying things and going. If you could listen, like just listen, like this quote I'm seeing here from Twitter, like, hey, I am writing this to tell Mamdani my mind because I feel like he is the one destroying America as a whole. We voted him here to make this country or to make this town a better place, not what he is doing now because this town is more than us. When I saw this, I was like thinking, why is he doing this? A whole like, watch this.
Are wealthy people going to leave New York if Mamdani wins? No, they're not going to leave. Really? A lot of them are threatening to leave because of higher taxes. Well, if I didn't want to be taxed, that's what I'd be saying too, but it's not true. Why not? Two simple reasons. First, most wealthy people are wealthy because they own assets, like land, buildings, companies, penthouse apartments. If those assets are in New York City, they're staying in New York City. You can't move a building. And moving your whole company and your family just to avoid a 2% income tax? Not gonna happen. Second, they don't want to leave. Being in New York means they get access to world-class culture.
Lied to. We did tax the rich. We taxed them hard, actually, up to 94%. And no, it didn't kill the economy. It literally saved it. So why doesn't anyone talk about that? Because billionaires don't want you to know that it actually worked. Every time you talk about taxing the rich, there's always the people that say the same things. That's not fair. They'll just leave. They earned it. This won't fix anything. It'll just hurt jobs. But the truth is, we've already tested this. We taxed the rich hard, and it built the most prosperous era in U.S. history. Here's exactly what happened. In the 1940s, President Franklin D. Roosevelt raised the top federal income tax to 94%. Yes, I know that number sounds crazy, so let me explain. That didn't mean that people were losing 94% of the income that they had earned. That's called a marginal tax rate, and it only applied to income above a certain threshold. In 1944, the 94% tax rate only applied to income above the $200,000 income threshold. So essentially like making, I don't know, $3.5 million today. So that means that you would pay the normal rate on the first couple million and only the income income above that would be taxed at this 94%. And I feel like that's the part that nobody ever really explains, and the billionaires count on that confusion to protect themselves. So what did this money pay for? It paid for the New Deal, including Social Security. It paid for massive public jobs programs during the Great Depression. It paid...
She has said a lot here. Like, if you look at what Mamdani did, listen very well. Let me educate you again on the mistake you have made already. See, when Mamdani came and he was like doing elections and he said he wants to tax the rich, the billionaires and the millionaires, for them to pay taxes, and he's going to cut rent again to half, it was strange because you people, he lured you guys into the bed and you guys took it. You understand? And now, just think about it. The rich are the one controlling the whole economy in all the countries in the world. How do you think he's going to impose tax on them? And again, Mamdani, he can't take laws like that. He has to pass them through this system for them to vote and they agree on what he's taking. Because he cannot just get up, the governor first has not accepted what he's doing, he's just a mayor. You understand? A whole lot of things, when you look at them critically, when Democrats come out and they're always talking, we always give them this chance like, okay, you guys just speak out your mind, like you guys know everything. But Republicans are wise. Remember when Trump came into power, he said what? He's making America great again. I know you may hate him, you may not want to see him, what he's doing, you may condemn him, but now look at what the Democrats are going through. Taxes for houses increased by 133%, for some 190%, for some 60-something%. Then for the rich like Donald Trump, you saw it was brought down again to 50%.
So you're telling me that if I buy a house 30 years ago at $50,000, but the city develops really well and now the value of my house is at...
Really unfair that old people have to pay property taxes. They're on a fixed income.
There is a serious crisis emerging in New York right now that everybody needs to know about. New York's mayor...
But if we tax the rich, they'll leave.
Rich people threatening to leave New York over Mamdani winning the primary has the same energy as like when an 8-year-old packs up a backpack and threatens to run away from home. Where are you gonna go? The circus?
So we now know beyond a shadow of a doubt that the billionaires at least know on some level that what they're doing is unethical because they don't want people pointing out where they live or how much they have. This is public knowledge. Zohran Mamdani stood at the base of Central Park South, pointed up and was like, look, that $238 million apartment, that's Ken Griffin's. He deserves to be taxed for that.